Welcome, my most excellent friends! Oh, I'm an idiot. In any case, welcome to the channel, welcome to this video. And I should probably start off quite formal, being that this video is quite different to... Actually, no, it's not that different. It's still about music, so... I mean, this one isn't a cover of any heavy metal stuff. This is original music that I've composed for Breaking Lights, Mr. H Reviews' second short film. My name is Christopher Black. I am an actor. I graduated from the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in 2017, and I have been a fan ever, I think it was, yeah, about in my final year, when I discovered Mr. H Reviews' channel. And of course, like me, he's a big fan of H.P. Lovecraft, and I think I came across his channel because two things. What, Alien Covenant was just coming out, and he did a lot of stuff on Alien. But the other one is that I was really quite mad on H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness novella. And I had read the novella and I loved it, but I was even more a fan of what Guillermo del Toro had done in the unfilmed screenplay that's online. You know, you don't have to look far to find it. And when Mr. H Reviews eventually said that he wanted to start making Lovecraftian short films, I had to get in on that. I'm a little bit annoyed that I couldn't get in touch with him when he was making Black Fields because, you know, it's Vikings, and at the time I had, just check out my Slayer Angel of Death cover. I've got a big black beard that I was sporting for that. I was looking real... you know, Gerard Butler as Leonidas, you know, I thought I, could get that sort of thing rocking. And I was also working out at the time and like getting a little bit of definition. I've lost it over Christmas. But anyway, I managed to get in touch with him for the next film. He'd already cast the main role, but I really wanted to be involved, and he invited me down to just be a part of the crew and meet everybody. And it was when he was showing me the raw footage of when they were filming at Black Church Rock, who, by the way, the main actor, Will, I take my hat off to you, sir. I couldn't have done what he did, like wading through the freezing cold water, like... And it was when, the main subject of this video being music, when he showed me the rough footage back of what he had filmed on the first day. He had this shot that just took my breath away of the camera moving over the rocks on the shore, and the camera just started spinning around as it pans up. It's moving forward and it slowly pans up, revealing Black Church Rock and Will in front of it in the freezing cold and kneeling, and you know, to the as it were, the monument of the old god that had been left there over eons of time. And this shot that moved up and revealing it, turning, the disorientation of that shot, I could just hear music. I could hear, because I play 7 instruments myself and one of them is violin, and I could just hear violins crossing over. Like, have you ever seen The Dark Knight? That scene where the Joker and Batman are in the interrogation room, and he like grabs him, and as he's like, where is he? Where? You can hear these violins like almost like musically turning up the heat of the scene, you know, like higher and higher and higher. I could hear something like that, but much smoother and much faster. Just high violins and low violins, you know, moving up and crossing over, and then just sitting in this big, thick, like major chord. And yeah, and so yeah, I said to him, H, what are you planning on doing about music? And he replies, I haven't thought that far ahead. Do you mind if I give it a shot? So as soon as I get back here after the shoot, leaving everybody, I immediately start working in this room and you know, setting up my microphones, working with my violin. And I don't know how H did it, but it was like 5 days, and he sent me a private YouTube link of the first cut of the movie. Like, in like 5 days, he already had a cut of it. I don't know how. The guy must never sleep. I mean, I take enough Pro Plus as it is to get the stuff done that I'm doing. But, oh God. Anyway, so he sends me this, and I look through it, and that shot that gave me all my ideas isn't as prominent in the cut. And I was like, oh, all my ideas that spawned from that one moving shot, it was, how do I say, he'd sort of like faded it between other shots, and it just, the mood of it had changed. And I just felt that my ideas that I initially came up with weren't applicable anymore. But then I told him that I do this, and he was kind of expecting something from me, so I thought, okay, I can come up with something else. And because this was my first time doing any sort of like soundtrack stuff, and then he tells me that he wants the whole thing to be scored with music, and I'm like, what? I've never done this before. Like, I'm mostly a heavy metal guy, but I mean, even though I say, you know, like I play violin and these other instruments, but still, anyway. So then I sort of drew on my other inspiration. The other thing that sort of like took my breath away was the shot of Will kneeling, as in like communion with the monument left by the old god that was Black Church Rock. And I sort of drew inspiration from that. And because it sort of had this feeling of, like I say, communion, almost kneeling to God, the God, you know, in worship type thing, it made me think of church organ. So I started playing around with that, and that's this stuff here at the very end of the track, because ultimately it ended up being abandoned because it just... I liked what I'd done, but I didn't think it fit. Even though it was an inspiration, I don't think it fit into what H had in mind for it. So I showed it to him, and he agreed. Yeah, it didn't fit. Although he liked it as well, it didn't fit with the mood of the film. I then came up with this piano piece right here, which when you see the film, when H releases it, there's a section which I was present for, where Will is walking down to the beach, to the bay, in the sort of dead of night, and there's the street lamps, and he's drunk and like low and sick, and he's sort of missing steps and stumbling across the place, and I thought of this really plodding kind of piano piece that I came up with, where it skips a beat in the time. It's not like a perfect 4/4, it skips a beat. Ultimately, I abandoned that piece before I even showed it to H, because it just felt, it felt too almost comedic. It felt out of place. It didn't feel dark enough, if I want to paint it with a word. It didn't feel dark enough and serious enough for the subject. So I then withdrew back to an influence that I knew would be very much in the vein that H would be happy with, which was kind of like, you'd probably expect me to say something like the Alien soundtrack. Well, close, but if you've ever played the video game Dead Space 2, for a video game, that has an amazing soundtrack. The only other soundtrack I've heard that took my breath away like that was the Red Dead Redemption 2 soundtrack. But, yeah, the sections of violins that, like, where they're sort of scraping on the strings, and so I drew on that, and that's what I came up with this. It's mainly a synthesized orchestra, but I've got these two sections of violins, sort of like, not dueling, but like doing a call and response kind of thing over it. In any case, just so anyone's thinking, H is absolutely okay with me sharing all this, but even though the film isn't out yet for anyone to see. So yeah, this is what eventually ended up in the film. So yeah, there's that. There was a little more of the chord work that I slightly changed for it that's in there, but that is what I ended up with. I think if I could have had anything differently, I would have loved to have had more time with it. I think I would have loved to have come up with more of that. But H seemed absolutely happy with it, and if he's happy, I'm happy, because it's all his baby. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this music belongs to him now. You know, it's I made it for him and for the film, and I mean, even as an actor, I always see the part as, well, it's not my part, it's the writer's and it's the director's part, and so yeah. But yeah, I think I would have loved to have come up with more of that. I think, in fact, I would have, with the synth orchestra, I would have loved to have done overdubs of every note that the orchestra plays with the violin. It took on, as I say, I began with a sort of Dead Space sort of influence with the violins, but it very much takes on its own flavour to it. Like, when the violins first kick in, it actually reminds me of like a Highlander sort of like thing, of like it almost has like a bagpipes kind of quality, which I was not aiming for at all. But then there's some parts of where the violins are calling and response, where it almost like has almost like a Japanese kind of like thing going, like a Ran or a Last Samurai kind of flavour to it, and so you get these things I was not intending for, but they just sort of like ended up that way. But and it's only just a very short piece of music, but it sounds pretty good. I mean, this is my first time doing this type of thing. Now this is the abandoned piano piece that I came up with. That idea came from this section where Will is walking down towards the bay in the middle of the night, and all there is like a few lamps in the road on this cobbled street. Like, fantastic location that they found for this, but it's you know, dark and everywhere's sort of like wet. There's like a sheen of dampness over everything, and he's walking through this darkness, but he's drunk, and he's like dejected and withered, and his face is all pale, and he's stumbling down the street, and that sort of gave me this idea for this plodding piano piece that occasionally skips a beat because he's stumbling and losing, you know, his walking pace, and that was the initial idea. But as I say, it just felt, it didn't feel the right mood. It just felt off. See what you think of this. Yeah, as you can hear, that comes to a bit of an abrupt, just, there's no stop, it just runs out. That's because I abandoned it. I just thought, yeah, this isn't working. This is, and unfortunately H agreed. I mean, if he had said, no, it's great, keep on going, I guess I would have. So that was the first abandoned piece. The second one that I did was in place of that idea that I had of the violins crossing over. I had this idea of, as Black Church Rock is revealed, you know, through the different shots that he'd edited between. Of course, I knew that probably wasn't going to be the final cut, but this was more something to go on. As Will goes towards the rock and like kneels in front of it, and he's like holding up his arms like in worship, in servitude, in sacrament, in communion, you know, all these types of thoughts, you know, that's what it felt like to me watching it. And I could just hear like church organ, and you know, with the sort of that God looking down upon you, and you being this helpless, tiny, in the awe of the magnificence of this monument left by the old god. So the organs there backed up with the orchestra, of course. But again, I sort of finished it and I thought, I like this, but does it really reflect what is going on? Am I trying to imprint? Is this music imprinting on the film rather than emotionally conveying what is happening in it? And I felt it was too much of the former. Anyway, here's that one. Yeah, so that's all the music that I developed for Mr. H's second film, Breaking Lights. I don't know, some of those pieces that it didn't end up being used, I don't know, who knows, maybe I'll develop them for other things, but on the note of developing things, we actually, whilst we were there on location in Devon shooting it, H mentioned that the next one that he makes, if he makes another one, he'd like to do as a science fiction thing. I wonder what a Chris-style 80s action sci-fi soundtrack would sound like. Yeah, see what you think of this. Just see it now, like, in
the grim, dark future of 24,000 AD.
So there you have it. There is all the music that was spawned from Breaking Lights, what was used and not used, as well as stuff that was inspired by the whole process. That last science fiction-y one, I think you can hear a lot of the influences in that. There's very much a Terminator, Brad Fiedel kind of vibe going on there. There's some John Carpenter, especially with the intro, you know, the dum-dum. I kind of did that deliberately. And the other one that was really present in my mind when I was starting with the on the synths was Airwolf. But anyway. When Breaking Lights comes out, I really hope that everyone enjoys it. It was a blast to be a part of. I mean, I only had a tiny cameo in it, but just being there, helping out with all the crew and getting to do the music for it, it was a blast. And I really hope that H's first one, Black Fields, I can't wait to see that. I've seen nothing of it. I've only been told about what's in it, but I can't wait. I can't wait to see it. I urge everybody, if you're really into what H is doing, do your best to support him, because I really would go out of my way to champion him for putting his money where his mouth is and really trying to make authentic, engaging entertainment that is made to be specifically that and has no alternative agenda to it than to entertain and give people what they want to see. I mean, that's the same reason why I make the music that I make, is I make music I want to hear. All of those guys in Production H, they're trying to make entertainment that they want to see. So, yeah. Be a part of it, guys. Support it.